White, nothing but white. Elizabeth Ashford couldn't remember what warmth felt like. 3 days since the stagecoach overturned on the mountain pass, its wheels catching ice and spinning into oblivion. 2 days since the driver stopped breathing, his body already buried under fresh snow. 1 day since she'd given up calling for help. Her fingers were blue beneath the torn lace gloves. Expensive gloves, Boston gloves, utterly useless against a Colorado winter. The wedding dress in her trunk, that pale blue silk she'd spent her last $47 on, lay buried somewhere in the drifts. She'd never wear it now, never meet the man who'd written those beautiful letters about mountain peaks that touched heaven and air so clean it hurt to breathe. Stupid girl, foolish, desperate girl to come west for a stranger. The wind screamed across the pass. Elizabeth closed her eyes. At least the cold didn't hurt anymore. That was something. That was mercy. Found something. A voice cut through the storm, deep and urgent. She tried to lift her head. Couldn't. Her neck wouldn't obey. 3 massive shadows materialized through the white hell. Men on horseback, or ghosts, or fever dreams. She'd stopped distinguishing between real and imagined hours ago. Christ almighty, she's frozen solid. A different voice, younger, raw with panic. Nate, I don't think she's breathing. She is. Barely. Strong arms lifted her from the snow. She weighed nothing. A child's weight. Ryder, ride ahead and clear the cabin. Jamie, get every blanket we own. Move. The world spun. Darkness pulled at the edges of her vision like a curtain drawing closed on a stage. Stay with us. The first voice again commanding. A voice accustomed to being obeyed. You didn't come all this way to die in the snow. What's your name? Elizabeth. The words scraped out of her frozen throat. Elizabeth Ashford, mail order bride for Nathaniel Blackwood. Silence. Strange, heavy silence that somehow cut through the howling wind. Then quietly, almost wonderfully, well, hell. Which one of us is she talking about? All of us signed N. Blackwood, you idiots. Elizabeth's last thought before unconsciousness claimed her 3 voices. 3 men. But I only wrote to one. The darkness took her. 3 months earlier, Boston had buried Elizabeth's father on a Tuesday. The September rain fell cold on Beacon Hill, turning the cemetery paths to mud that sucked at the mourners' boots. Not that there were many mourners. A handful of neighbors who'd known the family before the money ran out. A creditor or two checking to make sure Edmund Ashford was truly dead and not faking to escape his debts. Elizabeth stood alone at the graveside, 23 years old and utterly ruined. Her mother had died 2 years before consumption, eating her from the inside until nothing remained but bones and fever dreams. Her father had followed 6 days ago, his heart simply stopping during breakfast. The doctor said it was quick. Painless. Elizabeth knew better. Her father's heart had been breaking for 2 years, ever since they'd lowered her mother into the ground. Now both her parents rested in the Ashford family plot, and Elizabeth owned exactly nothing. Less than nothing. The house was already sold to pay creditors. The furniture auctioned, her mother's jewelry, her father's books, the silver tea service that had been in the family for 3 generations, all gone to men with ledgers and cold eyes. She had her clothes, a locket with her mother's portrait, and $300 in debt she couldn't pay. The rain soaked through her black mourning dress. Nobody offered her an umbrella. That's how far the Ashfords had fallen, from Beacon Hill society to invisible in 2 short years. She walked home through the rain, except it wasn't home anymore. The new owners were moving in tomorrow. Elizabeth had 1 night to sleep in her childhood bed, and then she'd be on the street. Mrs. Constance Hartwell saved her, or seemed to. The Hartwells lived 3 streets over in a mansion that made the old Ashford house look like a cottage. Shipping money, old money, the kind that survived panics and depressions. Mrs. Hartwell had known Elizabeth's mother slightly enough to offer charity disguised as employment. A lady's companion, Mrs. Hartwell explained in her drawing room, surrounded by Chinese vases and Turkish carpets. For my daughters. You're educated, I understand. French music. Yes, ma'am. My father believed in education. Excellent. $15 a month, room and board included. You'll teach the girls French conversation and piano. Help them prepare for society. It's respectable work. Respectable. The word tasted like salvation. Elizabeth moved into the Hartwell mansion the next day. A small room in the servants' wing, but clean and warm. The daughters Margaret and Alice were sweet girls of 16 and 14 who soaked up her lessons like sponges. For 6 weeks, Elizabeth thought perhaps life might be bearable after all. Then Mr. Augustus Hartwell came home drunk from his club. It happened in the library. Elizabeth was returning a book of French poetry, late evening, everyone else in bed. She didn't hear him enter behind her. Well, well, the little governess. She turned. Mr. Hartwell swayed in the doorway, his cravat undone, brandy glass in hand. 60 years old with a young man's appetites and an old man's entitlement. Mr. Hartwell, good evening, sir. I was just... He crossed the room faster than she expected. His hand caught her wrist, yanking her close. His breath reeked of alcohol and cigars. Pretty thing, alone in my house. No family to protect you. Sir, please. His mouth covered hers, wet and invasive. His other hand groped at her bodice. Elizabeth's mind went white with panic and rage. She'd never been kissed before. This violation, this theft of something that should have been sweet and chosen, ignited something fierce inside her. She brought her knee up hard. Mr. Hartwell howled and staggered back. Elizabeth's hand cracked across his face with all the force of her fear and fury. That's when Mrs. Hartwell appeared in the doorway. She took in the scene with cold eyes, her husband's disheveled state, Elizabeth's torn sleeve, the flush of rage on both their faces. You scheming little whore? The words hit like stones. Mrs. Hartwell, no, he attacked me. Get out of my house this instant. Please, if you'll just listen. I should have known better than to take in some desperate orphan. You were after my husband from the beginning, weren't you? Parading yourself around hoping to trap a wealthy man. No amount of truth could penetrate that wall of cold certainty. Mrs. Hartwell had made her choice. Believe the poor orphan girl or believe her husband of 30 years. There was no choice at all. Elizabeth was thrown out that night with her single trunk and no reference. By morning, Mrs. Hartwell had spread the story through every drawing room in Boston. The seductress governess, the scheming orphan who tried to entrap Mr. Hartwell. Every door closed. Every position vanished before Elizabeth could apply. She found a room in a boarding house near the docks, $2 a week for a space barely larger than a closet. Her money dwindled. $3, $2, $1.30. The newspaper classified advertisements swam before her eyes. Factory work paid 75 cents a day, but destroyed your lungs within a year. Seamstress work paid even less and ruined your eyes. She had no skills for honest poverty. Then she saw it. Bottom of the page, easy to miss. Respectable mountain man seeks educated bride. Must be hardworking, resilient, good character. Colorado Rockies territory. Simple life but honest. No need for fancy ways. Reply to N. Blackwood, Silver Creek, Colorado. Elizabeth read it 3 times. A mail-order bride. She'd heard of such arrangements. Desperate women going west to marry men they'd never met. It seemed like surrender, like giving up on any dream of romance or choice. But what choice did she have? What dreams remained? She wrote the letter that same night. Brutally honest, orphaned, penniless, falsely accused but with no way to prove her innocence. If you want a bride with a spotless reputation, I am not she, but I am educated. I work hard, and I will be loyal to any man who treats me with basic decency. The response came 3 weeks later. The letter was kind, understanding. It spoke of mountain life, of hard winters and simple pleasures, of loneliness and the need for partnership. The handwriting was firm and clear, the tone respectful, never presumptuous. Miss Ashford, we all carry burdens from our past. What matters is who we choose to be going forward. More letters followed. Elizabeth didn't notice the slight differences in handwriting, the shifts in tone from formal to playful to poetic. She thought it was one man with interesting moods. One letter spoke of the practical details of running a mountain cabin. Another described sunrises over the peaks with the reverence of a poet. A third made her laugh with dry observations about frontier town characters. She fell a little bit in love with the letters, with the man behind them, with the idea of starting over where no one knew her shame. In early December, she used her last $40 for a stagecoach ticket west. $7 remained for food on the journey. Everything she owned fit in one trunk. Her mother's locket around her neck, a book of French poetry, 3 dresses, 2 petticoats, winter coat boots, and her virginity protected not by virtue but by lack of opportunity. 23 years old and never properly courted, never kissed except by force, never touched with tenderness. The book she'd read gave her a vague understanding of what happened between husband and wife, enough to be terrified, not enough to be prepared. The stagecoach left Boston on December 1st, 1879. Elizabeth Ashford watched the city disappear behind her and didn't look back. She had no idea she was traveling toward 3 men instead of one. Warmth. The first thing Elizabeth registered was warmth. She woke slowly, surfacing from dark dreams of ice and death. A fire crackled nearby. Furs piled heavy on her body, soft and dense. Clean sheets beneath her, the scent of soap and wood smoke. Not dead then. Somehow impossibly not dead. She opened her eyes. A rough-hewn ceiling greeted her log beams dark with age. The room was small but well-made, everything fitted with the precision of a craftsman who took pride in his work. A window showed mountains and snow and endless sky. The door opened. A woman entered, middle-aged and sturdy, carrying a tray. Awake finally. Good. She set the tray down and came to the bedside, pressing a weathered hand to Elizabeth's forehead. Fever's broken. You're tougher than you look, girl. Where am I? Blackwood Cabin, 15 miles from Silver Creek. The brothers found you half dead in the past 3 days ago. Brothers, Elizabeth's throat was raw, but I was coming to marry. One man, yes, we'll get to that confusion shortly. First you eat, then we talk. The woman who introduced herself as Monroe Reed helped Elizabeth sit up and eat thin broth. Every movement hurt. Her fingers were bandaged, frostbite on the tips, but the damage not permanent. Her feet the same. She'd been lucky. Another few hours and she'd have lost toes, maybe whole feet. There are 3 of them, Monroe said bluntly, settling into the chair beside the bed. The Blackwood brothers, Nathaniel, James, and Ryder. They found you together, brought you here together, and have been hovering like mother hens for 3 days. But I only wrote to one man, Nathaniel Blackwood. Well, honey, that's where it gets interesting. Seems all 3 of them sent away for mail order brides. All 3 signed their letters N. Blackwood, Nathaniel being a family name passed down. The marriage broker back east got confused, sent you to all 3, and they each thought they were the only one corresponding with you. The room tilted. Elizabeth gripped the edge of the blanket. So none of them actually want to marry me. Didn't say that. Said there's 3 of them instead of 1. Different problem entirely. The door opened again. 3 men filed in, filling the small room with their size and presence. The tallest stood in front, 6'3" at least, with dark hair going gray at the temples and eyes the color of storm clouds. His face was all hard angles and old grief, the kind of face that had forgotten how to smile. Scars marked his hands, the permanent damage of years working trap lines in brutal weather. Behind him, a sandy-haired man with an easy smile that didn't quite reach his blue eyes. Handsome in a careless way, the kind of man who charmed without trying. He leaned against the door frame like he was posing for a portrait. The third hung back, youngest of the 3, with dark blonde hair and hazel eyes that watched everything with an intensity that made Elizabeth's breath catch. Athletic build, coiled energy like a predator at rest. Which one of you is Nathaniel Blackwood? Slowly, all 3 raised their hands. Elizabeth's laugh came out half sob, edged with hysteria. Of course they all are. The tall one spoke first. His voice matched his appearance, rough and low. I'm Nathaniel, Nate. I sent for a bride 6 months ago. Needed help with the cabin when I'm out on trap lines. The sandy-haired one grinned, though it looked pained. Jamie, sent my letter 4 months back. Needed a wife to claim an inheritance from my grandmother. There's a deadline. The youngest shifted his weight. Ryder, I wrote drunk 2 months ago. Barely remember it. Found your first response letter and sobered up real quick. The marriage broker mixed up the correspondence. Nate continued. We all use N. Blackwood as signature. All gave this cabin as address. You responded to one letter, but we all got copies. Each of us thought we were the only one writing to you. Elizabeth looked at the three of them. 3 brothers, 3 men who'd proposed marriage to the same woman without knowing they were in competition with each other. I don't understand. Why didn't you realize when my letters came addressed to just N. Blackwood? Jamie spoke up. We don't exactly sit around reading each other's mail. We work different trap lines, different schedules. I'd pick up mail in town, see letters for N. Blackwood, figure they're mine. Same with Nate and Ryder. The handwriting in your letters, Elizabeth said slowly. It changed. I thought you had different moods, but it was 3 different people. The formal, protective letters had been Nate, the playful, warm ones, Jamie, the poetic descriptions of mountain sunrises, Ryder. She'd fallen for a man who didn't exist, a composite of 3 brothers. I came all this way for nothing. Not nothing. Ryder's voice was quiet but firm. You're alive, that's something. I can't marry all 3 of you. No, Nate agreed, you can't. Silence fell heavy and awkward. Monroe cleared her throat. Well, that's a problem for tomorrow. For today, the girl needs rest, and you 3 need to figure out your mess. Out? All of you, the brothers filed out. Elizabeth sank back into the pillows, exhausted despite having just woken. 3 men, 3 sets of letters, 3 different kinds of loneliness that had reached across the continent looking for her. And she had no idea what to do about any of it. The next morning, Elizabeth discovered the true extent of her situation. She had no money. The stagecoach company had taken payment in full, non-refundable. Her trunk was recovered from the wreck, but the silk dress was ruined and the book's water damage. She owned 3 serviceable dresses under garments, her mother's locket, and nothing else of value. She couldn't return to Boston. Even if she had the fare, there was nothing waiting for her there except scandal and starvation. She couldn't stay here, not as 3 men's shared bride. The very idea was absurd and probably illegal. The passes were snowed in until March. Monroe explained this with the practicality of someone who'd lived through 20 Colorado winters. No stagecoach would attempt the mountain roads until spring thaw. Elizabeth was trapped. So I stay here until spring, then find my own way, Elizabeth asked, sitting at the rough kitchen table in a borrowed nightgown 3 sizes too large. Where will you go? Monroe asked. You got prospects somewhere I don't know about. I could find work. In Silver Creek, maybe. Silver Creek's got 300 souls, and most of them men. Boarding houses full up with railroad surveyors, no families needing governesses. General store might need help come spring, but that's months away. Then what do you suggest? Monroe looked at her with something like sympathy. I suggest you stay here, work for your keep, and in spring when the pass isn't clear, you decide what to do next. These are good men, Lily. They won't hurt you. Lily. Elizabeth's too formal for frontier living. You need a nickname. Lily suits you better. The brothers agreed to the arrangement that night. Lily would stay through winter, helping with cooking, mending, keeping the cabin livable while they worked the trap lines. In return, room and board. Come spring, if she wanted to leave, they'd provide her with enough money for a fresh start wherever she chose. The sleeping arrangements were discussed with painful awkwardness. The cabin had 1 bedroom built by Nate when he'd first claimed this land back when he'd had a wife and dreams of filling it with children. Now it would go to Lily. The brothers would sleep in the main room by the fire on bedrolls like they had before the bedroom was built. I can't take your bedroom, Lily protested. Yes, you can. Nate's tone left no room for argument. You're a guest. Guests get the bedroom. I'm not a guest. I'm an inconvenience you're stuck with until spring. Jamie grinned at that, the first real smile she'd seen from him. Well, when you put it that way, you definitely get the bedroom. We're not completely uncivilized. That first week was an education in awkwardness. Lily had never lived with men before. Her father had been distant, more interested in his books than his daughter. The male servants in the Hartwell household had been properly invisible, as servants should be. These three brothers were neither distant nor invisible. They filled the cabin with their presence, their sounds, their sheer physical reality. They woke before dawn and worked until dark. Nate ran the longest trap lines, sometimes gone for 2 or 3 days at a stretch. Jamie handled the closer lines and managed the business end, selling pelts and buying supplies. Ryder did both, moving between the two roles with quiet efficiency. When they were home, they moved around each other with the ease of men who'd shared space for years. They didn't talk much. Didn't need to. A grunt here, a nod there, and they understood each other perfectly. Lily felt like an intruder in their world. She tried to help with cooking and promptly burned the first breakfast she attempted. The wood stove was nothing like the modern range in the Hartwell kitchen. She couldn't judge the heat, couldn't time anything right. Jamie found her scraping scorched porridge into the waste bin, fighting tears of frustration. Hey now, it's just porridge. I can't even make porridge. What good am I? You'll learn. Took Nate 6 months to make edible coffee when we first came here. Now look at him, practically a chef. Nate, overhearing from across the room, made a rude gesture. Jamie laughed. Lily tried again the next day. The porridge was merely bad instead of inedible. Progress. She learned the morning routine. Haul water from the creek, heavy buckets that made her arms scream, bank the fire at night so coals remained for morning. Chop kindling, never logs, her arms weren't strong enough for the big axe. Hang laundry inside in winter, since outside it would freeze solid. The brothers watched her struggle and adapted. Ryder started hauling extra water when he came back from checking his nearby traps. Jamie chopped more kindling than strictly necessary. Nate said nothing, but she noticed the woodpile grew larger, the easier pieces sorted to the front where she could reach them. Small kindnesses, nothing spoken, just done. The cabin itself was well built but small. Lily's bedroom, the main room with its fireplace and rough furniture, and that was all. No privacy. The outhouse was a frozen hell 30 yards from the back door. She learned to time her visits for daylight when the brothers were out. The thought of them knowing when she needed to relieve herself was mortifying beyond words. Bathing was worse. The tin tub fit in front of the fire. Water had to be heated in kettles poured bucket by bucket. The brothers politely absented themselves on her bath nights, finding reasons to check trap lines or visit the barn. She'd bathe quickly, always afraid one of them would come back early and see her naked. The fear was irrational. They were gentlemen in their rough way, but she was a virgin living with 3 unmarried men. The impropriety of it would have sent Boston society into fits. Out here, nobody cared about Boston propriety. Out here, survival mattered more than scandal. At night, she lay in the bedroom, listening to the brothers move around beyond the thin wall. Deep voices murmuring. The sound of bedrolls being spread. Sometimes one of them would have a nightmare, usually Nate. He'd wake with a gap and she'd hear Jamie's voice low and soothing, talking him down from whatever dark dream had caught him. She learned their rhythms. Nate was silent and watchful, his presence like a wall between her and any outside threat. Jamie was easy charm and hidden pain, always ready with a joke to cut tension. Ryder was intensity held in check, watching her with eyes that saw too much. And slowly, terrifyingly, she began to feel safe. The first time Lily made them all laugh, it was an accident. She'd been trying to reach a high shelf in the kitchen, standing on a chair that had one leg slightly shorter than the others. The chair wobbled. She overcompensated. The whole thing tipped sideways. Lily went down in a tangle of skirts and flailing limbs, knocked over a basket of pine cones gathered for fire starters, and ended up sitting in the middle of the wreckage with pine needles in her hair and soot from the hearth smudged across her face. For a moment, silence. Then Jamie started laughing, not mocking, just pure surprised amusement. Ryder's mouth twitched. Even Nate, stone-faced Nate, cracked the smallest smile. "Are you hurt?" Ryder asked, offering his hand. "Only my dignity." "Well, that was never going to survive frontier living anyway," Jamie said cheerfully, helping her up. Lily found herself laughing too. Real laughter, the first since her father died. It felt strange and wonderful, like a muscle she'd forgotten how to use. After that, she stopped trying so hard to be perfect. She was clumsy, always had been. Her mother used to despair of it. In Boston, she'd broken 3 vases and a clock in the Hartwell household. Here she knocked over stacks of pelts, tripped on the raised threshold between rooms, and once somehow got tangled in laundry hanging by the fire and brought the whole line down. The brothers took it in stride. Ryder started moving things out of her path before she could hit them. Jamie made a game of catching her when she stumbled. Nate silently reinforced the furniture. Christmas approached. Lily had no gifts to give, no money for anything frivolous. But she could decorate. She gathered pine boughs and winter berries, wove them into garlands. The cabin smelled like forest and winter. She stood on that same wobbling chair to hang the greenery above the fireplace. The chair tipped again. This time, all 3 brothers lunged. They collided in a chaos of male bodies and momentum. Lily fell backward into Ryder's chest, his arms locked around her. Jamie grabbed for her waist. Nate caught the chair. They all went down in a heap on the floor. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Lily was plastered against Ryder's torso, his arm around her middle. Jamie's hand was still on her hip. Nate's face was inches from hers, his gray eyes wide with surprise. She could feel Ryder's heart hammering against her back, could smell the clean sweat and leather scent of Jamie, could see the pulse beating in Nate's throat. "Well," Jamie said into the silence, "this is cozy." Lily's face went hot. She scrambled up, everyone untangling with awkward apologies and averted eyes. But something had shifted. Some invisible line crossed. They'd touched her. She'd felt their bodies, their strength, their warmth. And instead of fear, she'd felt something else entirely. Something that made her pulse race and her skin tingle. Want, desire, longing for something she'd never experienced and didn't fully understand. That night, she heard them arguing in low voices after they thought she was asleep. "She likes you. I saw how she looked at you." Jamie's voice. "She looks at all of us the same way." Ryder. "Neither of you are marrying her. She goes back east in spring." Nate final. "What if she doesn't want to go?" Jamie challenged. Silence. Long and heavy. "She has to," Nate finally said. "We can't give her what she needs." Lily pressed her face into the pillow. What did she need? What did she want? 3 months ago, the answer would have been simple. Safety, respectability, a quiet life. Now lying in the darkness of a mountain cabin with 3 men beyond the wall, she didn't know anymore. The blizzard hit on a Wednesday night with the fury of something alive and angry. Lily had been learning to make bread, her hands white with flour, when Nate burst through the door. Storm's coming. Bad one. He was already moving, grabbing supplies. Jamie secure the barn. Ryder shutter the windows. Lily fill every pot with water. Move. They moved. Lily learned later that frontier people could read weather in their bones. The brothers had seen the signs all day. Falling pressure, nervous animals, the particular quality of light that meant snow and wind and death for anyone caught outside. The storm hit like a hammer. Wind screamed around the cabin, finding every crack and gap. Snow didn't fall so much as fly horizontal, a white wall of violence. The temperature dropped so fast, Lily could watch frost creep across the inside of the windows. Nate worked to secure the roof. A gust caught him wrong and tore loose a section of the covering. Snow poured in through the gap. "Get the bedroom," he shouted over the wind. "Everyone in the bedroom now." It was the smallest room, easiest to heat. They piled every blanket and fur they owned into that space. Built the fire in the main room as high as they dared, hoping the heat would seep through. Then they shut the bedroom door and waited. 4 people, 1 small room, 1 bed. This is completely improper, Lily said, trying for humor and hearing the shake in her voice. Improper beats frozen to death, Jamie replied. They sat on the floor at first backs against the walls, but the temperature kept dropping. The walls, solid as they were, couldn't keep out that kind of cold. We need to share body heat, Nate said. Not a suggestion, a statement of survival fact. They ended up on the bed, all 4 of them. Lily in the middle because she was smallest and coldest. Nate behind her, his large body curved around her back. Jamie in front facing her. Ryder at her feet, arms around her legs. Surrounded by men, touching them, feeling them breathe. Terror in something that wasn't terror at all. The storm raged. Hours passed. Lily had never been this close to a man in her life, let alone 3 of them. She could feel every point of contact. Nate's chest against her back, solid and warm. Jamie's breath on her forehead. Ryder's hands on her ankles, gentle, even through her stockings. I'm sorry, she whispered. About the kiss. About causing trouble between you. The Christmas Eve kiss. She'd mistaken Jamie for Ryder and in the darkness kissed him under the mistletoe. Ryder had seen. The hurt in his eyes had haunted her for days. You didn't cause anything, Ryder said quietly. We did that ourselves. How? She was genuinely confused. By all wanting the same woman, Jamie said. But you don't want me. Not really. I'm just the mail-order bride who showed up by mistake. Nate's arm tightened around her middle. You think that's all you are? Isn't it? No, what? His voice rumbled against her back. You're the woman who made me laugh for the first time in 4 years. Lily's breath caught. You're the one who taught me it's okay to smile again, Jamie added, even when everything's gone to hell. You made me stop running, Ryder said. Made me want to stay somewhere, with someone. I don't understand. We barely know each other. I know you're brave, Nate said. You came across the country to marry a stranger. That's brave. I know you're kind, Jamie continued. You mend my shirts even though I can do it myself. You do it because you care. I know you're strong, Ryder finished. Strong enough to survive things that would break most people. Lily felt something crack open in her chest. Some wall she'd built after her parents died, after the Hartwells threw her out, after every door in Boston closed in her face. What if I don't want to choose? The words slipped out before she could stop them. All 3 men went still. Choose what? Jamie asked carefully. Between you, what if I don't want to choose just one? Silence. The wind howled. The cabin creaked. That's not how it works, Nate said finally. Why not? Because society called me a whore for being attacked by a drunk man. Society ruined my life based on a lie. Why should I care what society says? More silence. She felt them thinking, felt the tension shift and change. This is the fever talking, Ryder said. You're exhausted and cold and not thinking straight. Maybe, or maybe I'm thinking clearly for the first time since Boston. The storm raged. They huddled together, and Lily felt rather than heard Ryder's whispered words against her ankle. God help me, I wish you meant that. She did mean it. She just didn't know what to do about it yet. The brothers had secrets. Lily discovered this slowly in fragments. Jamie's gambling problem revealed itself when a man named Bridger Calhoun rode up to the cabin in late January. Weathered face, shrewd eyes, the look of someone who'd survived 40 hard years in these mountains. Jamie, we need to talk about Denver. Jamie went pale, tried to get Bridger to leave. Too late. You still owe Pike $3,000. The number hung in the frozen air like an accusation. That night, Jamie confessed everything. The poker games in Denver saloons, the debt that had grown like a cancer, the inheritance from his grandmother, $5,000 if he married before May 1st. That's why he'd sent for a bride. Not for love or loneliness, but for money. I'm sorry, he said, face raw with shame. You deserve to know the truth. Lily should have been angry, should have felt used. Instead, she felt a strange tenderness for this man who hid his pain behind easy smiles and terrible decisions. People do desperate things when they're drowning, she said. I came west to marry a stranger. That was pretty desperate, too. Ryder's secret she found by accident. Maps and supply lists hidden in his saddlebag when she was mending the leather. Alaska. Gold rush. Plans to leave come spring. You're going to Alaska. He looked trapped, guilty. Was planning to. Before. Before what? Before you fell into my life and made me want to stay. The words hit harder than they should have. This quiet, intense man had been ready to abandon his brothers as his home, everything to chase gold and escape. Now he was staying. For her. You can't give up your dreams for me. They're not dreams anymore. You are. She didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to hold that kind of devotion without breaking under the weight of it. Nate's secret came through his dead wife's diary. Lily found it while cleaning a hidden compartment in the bedroom floor. She shouldn't have read it, knew it was wrong even as she turned the brittle pages. But Rebecca Blackwood's words pulled her in like a dark current. The diary told a story of betrayal. Rebecca had loved another man, had gotten pregnant by him, had married Nate knowing the child wasn't his. The baby girl had died within hours of birth. Rebecca had bled out shortly after taking her lies to the grave. Except they weren't in the grave. They were in this diary. And now Lily knew. Nate found her reading it. His face went white, then hard. You had no right. I know, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. All of it? You read all of it. She nodded, throat tight with tears. He stood frozen for a long moment. Then like a dam breaking, he collapsed. Not physically, but something inside him crumbled. He sank to the floor, back against the wall, and started to cry. Lily had never seen a grown man cry before. It terrified her more than the blizzard had. But she went to him anyway, sat beside him, pulled his head down to her shoulder. I knew, he said between sobs. Found the love letters that after she died. The baby had his eyes, I knew, and I couldn't even hate her properly because she was dead. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I can't do this again. Can't love someone who will betray me. Can't risk it. Lily held him tighter. I'm not Rebecca. How do I know that? You don't. That's what trust is, taking the risk anyway. He pulled back, looking at her with those storm gray eyes, reached up and cupped her face in his scarred hand. I want to kiss you, he said roughly. Want to so badly it hurts. Then do it. No. He stood up, stepped back. Not until you choose. Not until you're sure. He left her sitting on the floor, her heart pounding, her lips aching for a kiss that hadn't happened. That's when Percival Whitmore arrived. Percival Whitmore arrived in early February on a fine black gelding trailing a pack mule loaded with camera equipment that gleamed like strange instruments of surgery. He was 40-ish, well-dressed in Eastern clothes that looked absurd against the mountain backdrop. Clean-shaven, soft hands, the kind of man who'd never done hard labor in his life. His smile was practiced professional, designed to put people at ease. Lily distrusted him on sight. Good afternoon. He dismounted with the awkwardness of someone uncomfortable on horses. I'm looking for the Blackwood residence. I'm Percival Whitmore, photographer from New York, working on a documentary series for Harper's Weekly. Life in the American Rockies, that sort of thing. Nate emerged from the barn, Jamie behind him. Both men's faces were neutral, careful. What do you want with us? Whitmore produced a official-looking paper with an impressive letterhead. Harper's is paying me to capture authentic frontier life. I'd like to photograph your family. Daily routines, working scenes, the reality of mountain living. They're particularly interested in families who've made successful lives out here. We're not a family, Nate said flatly. Oh. Whitmore's eyes found Lily standing in the cabin doorway. His gaze sharpened with interest. The lady of the house, I presume. Miss Ashford, Lily said carefully. I'm visiting. Charming. Yes, this is perfect. The Harper's readers would love a story about frontier hospitality. May I? He gestured toward his equipment. $50 he offered. 2 weeks of room and board in exchange for photographing their daily lives. $50 could pay down Jamie's debt, could buy supplies for months, could change things. The brothers looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Barnes got space, Jamie said finally. 2 weeks, but you stay out of our way. Whitmore's smile widened. Gentlemen, you won't even know I'm here. That should have been the first warning. The photography started innocently enough. Whitmore set up his equipment in the yard, the large camera on its wooden tripod, the black cloth he'd disappear under to frame his shots. He'd brought the new faster plates that didn't require subjects to hold perfectly still for minutes. Modern technology, he explained proudly. The first day he photographed the brothers at work, Nate splitting wood muscles evident under his shirt, Jamie checking trap lines, Ryder skinning pelts with the casual expertise of long practice. Wonderful, authentic. Just hold that position. Yes, perfect. Lily watched from the cabin. Something about Whitmore's enthusiasm felt wrong, though she couldn't articulate why. The second day he included her. The lady of the house going about her morning routine. Harper's readers will love this, the feminine influence on the frontier. She was making bread, hands dusty with flour. He positioned her by the window for better light, had her lean over the dough kneading. The angle emphasized her figure in ways that made her uncomfortable. Lovely, natural. You have excellent bone structure, Miss Ashford. By the third day, he'd grown bolder. Let's capture the family dynamic. Miss Ashford, if you could sit here by the fire. Mr. Jamie, show her that card game you mentioned. They played poker. Whitmore circled them with his camera, clicking away. At one point, he had Jamie lean in close to explain a hand. Lily ended up practically in Jamie's lap, his breath warm on her neck. Click. The shutter captured the moment. Perfect, the intimacy of frontier life. That evening, Monroe Reed visited, took one look at Whitmore's setup and pulled Lily aside. I don't like this. He's from Harper's Weekly. It's legitimate. You seen any credentials besides that letter? Anyone can forge a letter. Why would he lie? Monroe's weathered face was grim. Some men make money off scandal, real or manufactured. You living here with 3 unmarried men, that's potential scandal right there. We're not doing anything wrong. Doesn't matter, it's how things look. And that man's taking pictures of how things look. The unease Lily had felt since Whitmore's arrival crystallized into real fear. That night, she asked to see the Harper's letter again. Whitmore produced it smoothly. The letterhead looked authentic. The signature appeared genuine. But Monroe's words echoed in her mind. Anyone can forge a letter. Could I write to Harper's to confirm the assignment? Lily asked carefully. Whitmore's smile never wavered. Of course, though mail is quite slow from here, the assignment will be finished before you'd receive a response. Exactly what someone with a forged letter would say. The photography continued. Whitmore grew more invasive. He photographed Lily hauling water, her dress dampened and clinging. Lily hanging laundry, reaching up so her figure was silhouetted. Lily bending over the washtub. Then he started combining subjects. Miss Ashford, you mentioned Mr. Ryder was teaching you to shoot. Let's capture that. Ryder positioned behind her arms around her, helping aim the rifle. The position was innocent instructional, but the photograph would look intimate, suggestive. Click. Excellent. Now I understand you've all been weathering the winter together. Perhaps a scene of evening leisure. Everyone gathered around the fire. They sat as directed. Whitmore arranged them like dolls. Lily between the brothers on the long bench, close quarters, their bodies touching. Her head resting against Nate's shoulder because she was tired from the day's work. Jamie's hand on hers, showing her something in this book. Ryder's arm across the back of the bench behind her. From above, the photograph would show one woman surrounded by 3 men, touching all of them, clearly comfortable with the intimacy. Click, click, click. Marvelous, so natural. That night, Lily heard the brothers arguing in harsh whispers after Whitmore retired to the barn. This feels wrong, Ryder said. It's just photographs. Jamie countered, but he sounded uncertain. Of our private life, things that could be misunderstood. $50, Nate said flatly. We need the money. Not this badly. Then what do you suggest? We throw him out and lose the payment. Silence. The weight of Jamie's debt of their precarious financial situation hung heavy. The final straw came on day 12. I'd like to capture the domestic intimacy of frontier illness care, Whitmore announced. Miss Ashford, if you could lie on the bed. Gentlemen gathered around as if tending her during a fever. Lily's stomach turned. I don't think it's entirely innocent, simply showing how frontier families care for their sick, the lack of doctors out here, the reliance on each other. She found herself on the bed, dressed but positioned as if unwell. The three brothers arranged around her, Nate sitting beside her, his hand on her forehead, checking for fever. Jamie holding her hand. Ryder at the foot of the bed, concern on his face. Whitmore's camera clicked rapidly. The scene was innocent. The photograph would be damning. 4 people on a bed, 1 woman, 3 men. No context, just the image. That night, Whitmore made his move. He spread the photographs across the kitchen table. Lily stared at them with growing horror. Each image viewed alone might be explained away. Viewed together, they told a story of a woman living in sin with 3 men. Intimate poses, domestic scenes that suggested shared beds and shared lives. Nothing explicitly sexual, but everything suggestive. These are quite remarkable, Whitmore said, his voice losing its friendly veneer. I'm sure certain newspapers would find them fascinating. Nate's hand slammed down on the table. What are you saying? I'm saying photographs can tell many stories. This story, for instance, of a mail-order bride living with 3 brothers in unmoral circumstances would generate significant interest in Boston newspapers. Wouldn't it, Miss Ashford? Lily's blood turned to ice. He knew. Somehow he knew about Boston, about the scandal, about everything. How much, Jamie asked flatly. $2,000. Or alternatively, a 10-year lease on your land. We don't have $2,000. Then I suggest you find it, or accept the lease option. I have business partners interested in this area. His smile was cold now, reptilian. You have 48 hours. After that, these photographs go east to various newspapers. I'm sure they'll run with delightful headlines. He left them sitting in stunned silence. He researched us, Lily said quietly. He knew about my scandal before he came here. This was planned. Why us? Ryder asked. The land, Nate said. There's been rumors of silver deposits. He's probably working for a land speculator. What do we do? Jamie's voice cracked. I can't come up with $2,000. I owe $3,000 already, and we can't give up the land. Lily's mind raced. Whitmore thought he'd won, thought they were helpless frontier folk too naive to fight back. He was wrong. I have a plan, she said. Monroe Reed arrived before dawn, summoned by Ryder's midnight ride to Silver Creek. She brought coffee, clear eyes, and a willingness to commit moderate crimes in service of justice. Telegraph went out yesterday, she reported. Harper's Weekly confirmed no Percival Whitmore on staff, no documentary project authorized. Letters a forgery. Good. Lily spread her own papers on the table. Now here's what we do. The plan was audacious, possibly illegal, and required perfect timing. Step 1. Make Whitmore think they'd given in. Lily approached him that morning with defeat in her eyes. We'll cooperate. Take whatever photographs you want. We need time to raise the money. Whitmore's smile was triumphant. Wise choice, Miss Ashford. And if you're very cooperative, I might reduce my price. What do you mean? I mean, if you stage even more intimate scenes, I could be persuaded to accept $1,500 instead of $2,000. Her skin crawled, but she nodded. What did you have in mind? Step 2. Get him to reveal his true nature on camera. Monroe positioned herself in the barn loft with an old daguerreotype camera borrowed from Silver Creek's portrait studio. The sight lines were perfect. She could see through the cabin window into the main room. Whitmore directed his new scenes with growing boldness. Lily with her hair down loose around her shoulders. Lily in her nightgown, showing frontier women's sleepwear. Lily positioned between the brothers in increasingly suggestive ways. Now, Miss Ashford, I want you to kiss each of them, just on the cheek, very innocent, but it will photograph beautifully. She did it, felt each brother tense under her touch, felt her own shame at this performance. But Monroe was watching. Monroe was photographing Whitmore, directing every pose, his face visible, his gestures clear. Evidence, proof of staging. Excellent. Now everyone on the bed again. Lily, drape yourself across them. Yes, like that? Click. Whitmore's camera. Click. Monroe's camera from the barn capturing Whitmore in the act. Step 3. Find his partner. While Whitmore was occupied with his photography, Ryder made quiet inquiries in Silver Creek. Who had Whitmore been drinking with? Who had he talked to? Bridger Calhoun surprisingly provided the answer. Man's been boasting at the saloon. Says he's got a partner in Denver. Name of Pike. Pike. The same Pike who held Jamie's gambling debts. The pieces clicked together. Pike and Whitmore were working together. Extort the Blackwoods, take their land, settle Jamie's debt by claiming the property, then sell it to whatever mining company wanted the potential silver deposits. Where are the photograph plates? Lily asked Bridger. Pike's holding them. Coming up tomorrow to finalize the deal. Tomorrow. They had until tomorrow. Step 4. Turn the tables. That evening, Jamie challenged Whitmore to poker. You seem like a gambling man, Jamie said, his easy smile back in place. Care to make this interesting? What did you have in mind? Simple game. You win, we sign over the land deed tonight. I win, you give us the photographs and leave Colorado. Whitmore's eyes gleamed. He had watched Jamie play over the past 2 weeks. Knew Jamie was good but erratic. Knew about the gambling debts, the problems. Thought he had the advantage. I'll need to see the deed first. Nate produced it. The legal paper that represented years of work of building, of claiming this land from the wilderness. And the photographs, Jamie asked. My partner has them, safe in Denver. But I'll send word immediately if I win. You'll have the deed, I'll have your land. Everyone's happy. Except that was a lie. Pike was coming tomorrow with the plates. Whitmore was bluffing, but so was Jamie. The game began. Monroe sat in as witness neutral party. The traveling marshal from Silver Break, summoned by her earlier, watched from the corner. Official presence in case things went wrong. Cards fell, chips moved. Whitmore won the first 2 hands easily. Jamie's face grew tense, worried. He was losing badly. Except he wasn't. Lily watched from across the room and saw the tells. The tiny signals only someone who'd spent months learning to read him would catch. Jamie was playing a part, playing the desperate gambler in over his head. Whitmore grew confident. Started betting bigger. 3rd hand, Jamie folded early. 4th hand, Jamie lost again. 5th hand, Jamie went all in. Whitmore studied him, saw the sweat on Jamie's forehead, the tension in his shoulders, saw a man making a desperate final play. I call. Whitmore spread his cards. Full house, kings, over 10s. Jamie stared at his cards. Let silence build. Then smiled, slow and dangerous. You have a tell, Whitmore. You touch your left ear when you're bluffing. You're right when you're confident. I've been watching you for 2 weeks. I know every expression, every gesture. He laid down his cards. 4 aces. Whitmore's face went pale. But you don't have the photographs, he said desperately. Pike has them, in Denver. Pike's in Silver Creek, Ryder said, walking in from outside. Behind him, the debt collector entered, looking nervous and cornered. Monroe sent for him yesterday. He's been here all day. With the photograph plates? Monroe added, producing them from her bag, which he was happy to turn over when the marshal explained the legal consequences of extortion. Pike shifted uncomfortably under the marshal's hard stare. I want immunity. I didn't know it was illegal. Whitmore said it was just business. It's extortion, the marshal said flatly. Federal crime when it crosses state lines. but we might be lenient on you if you cooperate fully. Lily stepped forward, took the photograph plates from Monroe. One by one, she smashed them on the floor. Weeks of Whitmore's careful work destroyed in seconds. You have nothing, she said. No photographs, no leverage, no land. But we have evidence against you, Jamie added. Monroe's photographs showing you directing stage scenes. Pike's testimony. The forged Harper's letter. That's fraud, extortion, and conspiracy. Whitmore looked at the marshal, at the broken plates, at the brothers' hard faces. I want a lawyer. You'll get one in Denver. After you've spent a few nights in Silver Creek's jail thinking about your choices. The marshal led Whitmore away. Pike followed, shoulders slumped. In the sudden silence, the four of them looked at each other. That was insane, Ryder said. That was brilliant, Nate corrected, looking at Lily. How did you know Pike was the partner? Bridger told us Pike had been asking about silver deposits on your land. Whitmore mentioned business partners interested in the area. It wasn't hard to connect. And the poker tell, Jamie asked. You taught me to read people, remember? I watched Whitmore for 2 weeks. He touched his left ear every time he bluffed during your games. Jamie laughed, pulled her into a hug. You're terrifying. I love it. Over his shoulder, Lily saw Nate's face. Proud, grateful, something deeper that made her breath catch. They'd won, together, but the victory was short-lived. 2 weeks later, she arrived. Vivian Ashford stepped from the hired carriage like a queen entering a peasant village. 30 years old, beautiful in a cold, polished whim. Her traveling dress cost more than the cabin was worth. Behind her, a lawyer with expensive luggage and the air of Eastern superiority. Nate opened the door to her knock, stared. Hello, husband. The word fell like a stone. I'm not your husband. Never seen you before in my life. Vivian's smile was knife-sharp. Perhaps you've forgotten. Montana Territory, 1873. We married in June. You left on a trapping expedition and never returned. I mourned you for years. The lawyer, Mr. Cornelius Finch, stepped forward, produced a document with official seals and careful handwriting. Marriage certificate, Nathaniel Blackwood and Vivian Marsh, June 15th, 1873. Signed by Pastor John Miller of Helena, Montana. This is impossible, Nate said. I married Rebecca in 1874. First and only marriage. Then your marriage to Rebecca was bigamous, Finch said smoothly. Making this woman, he nodded to Vivian, your legal widow with rightful claim to your estate. Jamie and Ryder had come to stand behind Nate. Lily hung back watching this elegant woman with her expensive clothes and easy lies. The same last name as Lily's, Ashford. Not a coincidence, couldn't be. We'll return in 1 week, Finch continued, with the territorial judge. I suggest you prepare your counter evidence. His smile suggested he knew they had none. Otherwise, Mrs. Ashford here will assume legal ownership of this property and all assets. They left in a swirl of expensive perfume and veiled threats. The cabin erupted. This is insane, Jamie said. You never went to Montana in 73. I was in Wyoming, Nate agreed, barely 20 years old, working for a cattle outfit. Never went north to Montana until 76. Can you prove it? Lily asked quietly. Silence. Employment records from a decade ago for a young drifter, paid in cash. Witnesses who might be dead or scattered. Proof of negative was nearly impossible. The certificate looks official, Ryder said, examining it. Professional forgery if it is one. It has to be forgery, Nate insisted. I never married anyone before Rebecca. Lily's mind worked through the problem. The coincidence of surnames, the timing, the specific claim. She researched me first, Lily said. Found out about my Boston scandal somehow. Learned my name was Ashford. Used it to make herself seem more credible, like we might be distant family. Made her claims seem more legitimate. Why, Jamie asked. Silver, Ryder said grimly. The rumors are out. Someone leaked the geological survey. The land's worth a fortune if the silver deposit is real. So she's working for a land speculator like Whitmore was. Probably the same speculator. Whitmore's plan failed, so they tried a different angle. We have 1 week to prove she's lying, Nate said, or we lose everything. That night, while the brothers discussed legal strategies and counter-arguments, Lily lay in bed thinking. Vivian had made mistakes, small ones, but there. The marriage certificate was signed by Pastor John Miller. Montana Territory, June 1873. The locket Vivian wore around her neck, which she'd shown them briefly, contained a photograph of a man who looked like Nate, but not quite. Similar features, but something was off. The surname, the theatrical timing of her arrival, the expensive lawyer who seemed very confident. Lily needed proof, real, undeniable proof. She started with Rebecca's diary, the worn leather journal she'd read weeks ago that had revealed Rebecca's betrayal and broken Nate's heart. Lily had memorized passages in her guilt at invading his privacy. She flipped to the summer of 1872. June 5th, 1872. Met the most remarkable man today at the trading post. Nathaniel Blackwood, 22 years old, never been married, he says. Been working cattle in Wyoming, but thinking of settling here. There's something solid about him. Trustworthy. Unlike the wild boys who just want quick money and loose women. He said he's been waiting for the right woman to build a life with. I think I might be falling in love. Lily's heart raced. Rebecca met Nate in June of 72, a full year before the supposed marriage to Vivian. And Rebecca specifically noted never been married. If Nate had been married in Montana in 73, he'd have still been legally bound when he courted Rebecca in 72. He wouldn't have called himself unmarried. Unless he was a bigamist then too. But that didn't fit. Nate was many things, but not a liar about something that fundamental. More proof needed. Lily wrote to the Montana Territory Church Records Office. Monroe helped using her contacts in Silver Creek to send the telegraph. The response came in 3 days. Pastor John Miller, Methodist minister in Helena, Montana, died March 3rd, 1871, 2 years before the marriage certificate's date. A dead man couldn't sign a marriage certificate. Lily felt triumph surge, then doubt. Would a territorial judge accept telegraph records as proof? Would Vivian's lawyer claim the records were wrong? She needed more. The photograph in Vivian's locket. The man who looked like Nate but wasn't quite right. Nate, she asked carefully, did you have any brothers besides Jamie and Ryder? His face shuddered. Older brother, Nathaniel Sr., I'm Junior. He died in 1870. What did he look like? Like me. Everyone said so. Same build, same coloring. His eyes narrowed. Why, the photograph Vivian showed us. It wasn't you. It was your brother. Understanding dawned. She found a dead man who looked like me. Used him to create a false marriage. Where's his photo, the family one? Nate produced an old daguerreotype from a trunk. 2 young men nearly identical. The older one had different eyes, a slightly different jaw, small differences, but there. Next to Nate in that old photograph, the distinction was clear. But on its own, in Vivian's locket, it could pass for Nate to someone who'd never met him. She couldn't know about him, Nate said. How would she know I had a dead brother with the same name? Research, records, death certificates. If she was thorough enough, determined enough. The final piece came from an unexpected source. Bridger Calhoun rode up to the cabin 4 days before the judge was due to arrive. Heard about your trouble, he said without preamble. Thought you should know. Woman calling herself Vivian Ashford spent time in Denver last month. Gambling, lost badly, owes money to some dangerous people. How much? Lily asked. $5,000. Jamie whistled low. More than my debts. She's desperate, Bridger continued. Someone approached her at the tables, offered her $5,000 plus a percentage if she could claim the Blackwood land. Said she had acting experience, could pull it off. Acting experience. She's been on stage in Denver. Small theater, but she's good. Good enough to play a role like grieving widow. Everything clicked into place. An actress desperate for money. Hired by a land speculator. Given a script in a set of forged documents. sent to play the role of her life. The town meeting was held in Silver Creek's church, the only building large enough for the crowd. Everyone came. Frontier justice was public entertainment. Judge Horace Pemberton presided, 60 years old and stern as granite. He'd seen every con, every scheme the West had to offer. Fooling him would be nearly impossible. Vivienne arrived dressed in morning black, playing the widow role perfectly, dabbing at dry eyes with a lace handkerchief. Her lawyer presented the marriage certificate with great ceremony. Your Honor, Mrs. Ashford has endured years of grief believing her husband dead. Imagine her shock upon discovering him alive, married to another woman living in sin. The crowd murmured. Lily saw judgment in their faces. A man who'd abandon his wife commit bigamy was the lowest kind of scoundrel. Nate stood alone before the judge. That certificate's a forgery. I never married this woman. Never even met her until 2 weeks ago. Can you prove it? The judge asked. I can, Lily said, standing. Every head turned. Vivian's face showed the first crack in her composure. Your Honor, may I present evidence? The judge studied her. You're not family. I'm Nate's fiancée. I have a personal interest in the truth. Proceed. Lily laid out her evidence methodically, like building a case brick by brick. First, the signature. The certificate claims to be signed by Pastor John Miller of Helena, Montana. But Pastor Miller died in March of 1871. Here's the telegraph from Montana Territory Church records confirming his death. She handed the paper to the judge. He read it carefully. The certificate is dated June of 73, 2 years after Pastor Miller's death. A dead man can't perform marriages. Vivian's lawyer stood. Your Honor, there could be multiple John Millers. This doesn't prove Lily interrupted. The photograph. Mrs. Ashford showed us a locket containing her supposed husband's image. But that photograph is not of Nathaniel Blackwood Jr. It's of his deceased older brother, Nathaniel Sr. She presented the family photograph. Notice the differences. The eyes, the jawline, similar men but not the same man. The judge examined both images. His eyebrows rose slightly. Mrs. Ashford claimed this was her husband, but Nathaniel Sr. died in 1870, before the supposed marriage date. She's either confused or lying. Third, Lily continued, warming to it now. The surname Ashford, Mrs. Ashford and I share a surname. She claimed this was coincidental, perhaps indicating distant family relation. But she knew about my background before coming here. She researched me, learned about my Boston scandal, and adopted my surname to seem more credible. She looked directly at Vivian. How else would you know those details about my past unless you'd investigated thoroughly? Vivian's composure cracked further. I must have heard gossip in town. You arrived the day after your lawyer sent the warning letter. No time for town gossip. Fourth and finally, Lily said, this woman is an actress from Denver. She has significant gambling debts, $5,000 owed to dangerous people. Someone approached her, offered her money to play this role. She's being paid to commit fraud. Those are lies. Vivian stood, abandoning her widow act. Slander. Mr. Bridger Calhoun can testify to seeing you in Denver gambling halls, Lily said calmly. The theater owner can confirm your employment. Your creditors can confirm your debts. The judge looked at Vivian, at her lawyer, at the mounting evidence. Mrs. Ashford, would you like to reconsider your testimony? Vivian looked at her lawyer. The lawyer whispered urgently. She shook her head, stood straighter, then she broke. Fine, yes, I was hired. A land speculator wanted the Blackwood property, said there was silver, offered me $5,000 to claim it through marriage fraud. I needed the money. I'm sorry. The judge's gavel cracked down. Case dismissed. Certificate deemed fraudulent. Nathaniel Blackwood's title to his property is clear and undisputed. The crowd erupted in noise. Vivian fled the church, her lawyer close behind. The Silver Creek marshal moved to pursue, but they'd already disappeared into the crowd, heading for horses tied outside. Gone. Escaped before formal charges could be filed. But it didn't matter. Lily had won. That night back at the cabin, the brothers were jubilant. "You saved us," Nate said. "Again, twice now you've solved problems we couldn't." "You're brilliant," Ryder added. "The way you laid out that evidence step by step, the judge never had a chance to doubt." "We should celebrate," Jamie said. "We found the silver deposit, by the way. Real geological survey, $50,000 worth at least." 50,000, enough to pay all debts, enough to secure their future for years. "We can mine it ethically," Nate decided. "Hire workers from Silver Creek, pay fair wages, share profits with the town that supported us." They talked late into the night about plans and possibilities, about the future that had seemed so uncertain and now stretched open before them. Lily listened and felt something building in her chest. Not quite hope, not quite fear, something between. She'd saved them twice now, proven herself worthy, proven herself strong. But she still had to choose. Three men, three different kinds of love, and only one of her. The proposals came over 3 days, each brother finding his moment alone with her. Nate's came by the creek at sunset winter, giving way to early spring. "Lily, I need to say something." She waited, heart pounding. "I've been a coward, hiding behind Rebecca's betrayal, afraid to trust again. But you've proven yourself over and over. You're brilliant, strong, everything I didn't know I needed." He took her hands in his scarred ones. "Marry me. I'll spend my life earning your trust, protecting you, loving you the way you deserve." He offered stability, safety, the deep, quiet love of a man who'd learned to open his heart again. Jamie's proposal came during evening cleanup, playful despite the serious intent. "So," he said, drying dishes beside her, "you've saved my neck twice now. From Whitmore's blackmail, from Pike's debt. The silver means I can actually pay everything off now. Be a real prospect for marriage." He spun her around, grinning. "Marry me, Lily. We'll have adventures. I'll make you laugh every day. I'll be the husband you deserve, not the gambler you rescued." He offered joy, partnership, the bright, warm love of a man who'd found his reason to be better. Ryder's proposal came under the stars, intense and raw. "I canceled my Alaska plans," he said quietly. "Wrote to the expedition, told them I'm staying." He pulled out a ring carved from the silver ore, rough but beautiful. "Lily, you are my adventure. You're what I was searching for. I don't need gold in Alaska when I found treasure here." The ring glinted in the starlight. "Marry me, build a life here. Let me spend every day showing you how much you mean to me." He offered passion, devotion, the fierce protective love of a man who'd found his purpose. Three proposals, three kinds of love, three futures, and Lily couldn't choose. She lay awake that third night, the ring on her bedside table, the weight of decision crushing her chest. Each brother offered something she desperately wanted. Each represented a different dream. How could she choose? How could she say yes to one and break two others' hearts? She heard them through the thin wall, arguing in whispers they thought she couldn't hear. "She has to choose eventually," Nate said. "What if one of us steps aside?" Jamie suggested. "Makes it easier for her." "Which one?" Ryder demanded. "We all love her." Silence, heavy and hopeless. "Exactly, my mom," Nate said finally. "So how do we decide?" "We don't, she does. And if she can't," another silence, longer this time. "Then we've lost her," Jamie said quietly. "All of us." Lily pressed her face into the pillow to muffle her sob. She couldn't choose. The realization hit like a physical blow. She couldn't choose because she loved all three of them. Differently, but equally necessary. Nate made her feel safe enough to be vulnerable. Jamie made her believe joy could exist after pain. Ryder made her brave enough to face anything. Together, they were complete. Apart, each was missing something she desperately needed. So she wouldn't choose. She emerged from the bedroom, all three brothers looking up in surprise. "I heard you," she said. "Heard everything." Embarrassment crossed their faces. "Lily, Lily, we didn't mean for you to. I can't choose, she interrupted. I've tried. I can't. They waited, barely breathing. Because the truth is, I love all of you. The words hung in the air, impossible and true. Nate, you make me feel safe, like I can be vulnerable without fear. Jamie, you make me laugh, showed me that joy isn't dead just because life is hard. Ryder, you make me brave, make me believe I can do impossible things. She looked at each of them. Together, you're complete. Apart, you're each missing something I need desperately. What are you saying? Nate asked carefully. I'm saying I'm not choosing. I'm staying with all of you. The silence stretched like pulled wire ready to snap. Three men staring at one woman who just proposed the impossible. Nate's face was stone unreadable. Jamie looked like he'd been struck. Ryder had gone very still, the dangerous stillness of a man trying to process something his mind couldn't quite accept. You can't mean that, Nate said finally. His voice was careful, controlled. Lily, you're exhausted. You've been through hell. You're not thinking clearly. I've never been more clear in my life. This is insane, Jamie said, but there was something in his voice. Hope maybe, or terror at hoping. Is it? Lily looked at each of them in turn. I came west to marry one stranger based on letters. That was insane too. But here I am. Here we are. Society will call it sin, Nate said. Society called me a whore for being attacked. Society ruined my life based on a lie. Why should I care what society says? Ryder moved first, crossed the room to stand before her. His hazel eyes searched her face like he was trying to read the truth written there. You're serious. You actually mean this. I do. How would it even work? His voice was raw. Legally, you can only marry one of us. Then I marry one in law, but in life and heart, I belong to all three. Which one? Jamie asked. The question they were all thinking. Lily's throat tightened. This part she'd thought through during those long hours lying awake. Nate, I'll marry Nate legally. Jamie flinched like she'd struck him. Ryder's jaw clenched. Because he's the eldest, she continued quickly. Because it's practical. Because the inheritance laws favor the oldest brother and we need every advantage. Because she looked at Nate. Because you need it most. You need to learn to trust again, to believe someone can choose you and stay. Nate's face cracked. Just for a moment, but she saw it. The wall fracturing. Jamie, she turned to him. If I marry Nate, brothers can share family wealth. The silver, the land, everything goes into common ownership. Your inheritance problem solves itself. You thought this through, Jamie said quietly. All night, every night since the proposals. And me, Ryder asked. What am I in this arrangement? She went to him, took his scarred hands in hers. Equal, you're equal to them in every way that matters. This only works if we're honest about that. Honest? Nate's laugh was bitter. You want honesty? This is the most dishonest thing I've ever heard. Lying to the whole territory about what we are. No, Lily's voice went hard. I'm done lying, done pretending. We tell the truth, maybe not the whole truth to strangers, but we don't hide. Not from each other, not from the people who matter. Monroe Reed's voice came from the doorway. They'd been so focused on each sphere, none of them had heard her arrive. Lord almighty, girl, you don't do anything halfway, do you? Lily spun. Monroe, how long have you been long enough? The older woman stepped inside, shaking snow from her coat. Heard most of it from the porch. Came to check on you after the trial, found quite the scene. Embarrassment flooded Lily's face. I can explain. Don't bother. I understand perfectly. Monroe pulled out a chair, sat like she was settling in for a long conversation. You love all three. They love you. Choosing one means breaking two hearts. So you're not choosing. You think I'm insane. I think you're brave. Stupid brave, maybe, but brave. Monroe's weathered face was thoughtful. I've lived in these mountains 40 years, seen all kinds of arrangements. Man with two families in different towns, woman married to dead husband's brother to keep the farm going. Mormons with their plural wives before the government cracked down. Frontier makes its own rules, always has. This is different, Nate said. So you three share everything else. Why not her? The crudeness of the phrasing made Lily blush, but Monroe's eyes were serious. Legally, she marries you, Nate. One husband, one wife, all proper and respectable. What happens in this cabin behind closed doors is nobody's business but yours. People will talk, Ryder said. People always talk. Question is, do you care enough to let it stop you? Silence. The four of them looked at each other, and Lily saw the moment the decision crystallized. Saw it in Nate's shoulders, dropping their defensive tension. In Jamie's slow smile, in Ryder's hand reaching for hers. If we do this, Nate said slowly, and I mean if, we do it honestly, no lies between us, no secrets. Agreed, Lily said. And you're in charge of boundaries, he continued. What you're comfortable with, we respect. Always. I want it in writing, Jamie said. Partnership agreement. Silver profits split 4 ways. Land ownership equal. We're business partners as well as... He hesitated. Whatever this is. Family, Ryder said quietly. We're family. The word hung there warm and frightening and true. Monroe stood. I'll stand witness when you marry, and I'll help with certain practical matters. Things a woman needs to know before her wedding night. Lily's face burned. I don't... Yes, you do. You're a virgin girl, and you've got 3 men to satisfy. You need education, and you need it before that wedding. The brothers all looked away, suddenly fascinated by the floor. Tomorrow, Monroe said firmly, you come to my place. We'll have the talk proper women should have before marriage. The talk your mother would have given you if she were here. She left them standing in awkward silence. Well, Jamie said finally, this is happening then. God help us all, Nate muttered. But when Lily looked at him, she saw the smallest smile on his weathered face. The first real smile she'd seen since that day. She fell on the water trough and made him laugh. Hope, fragile and terrifying and real. Monroe's cabin smelled like herbs and wood smoke and the strong coffee she was famous for throughout Silver Creek. Lily sat at the small kitchen table, hands wrapped around a tin cup, trying not to shake. You're scared, Monroe observed. Not a question. Terrified. Good, you should be. This isn't something to take lightly. Monroe settled across from her, fixing her with those knowing eyes. You understand what happens between husband and wife. I've read books. Books don't tell you the half of it. Monroe's smile was wry. Let me be plain, because there's no point in dancing around it. You know the mechanics, man-woman, how children are made. Lily nodded, face hot. Knowing and experiencing are different things. First time hurts for most women. Not terrible, but there's pain. Blood usually. Body has to adjust to something it's never done before. Lily's hands tightened on the cup. But with a patient man, it gets better. Becomes pleasurable. That's important, Lily. It's supposed to be pleasurable for both. If it's not, something's wrong. The books made it sound like something women endure for their husband's sake. Monroe snorted. Books written by men who don't know what they're doing. Truth is done right. It's wonderful, but you've got to communicate. Tell him what feels good, what doesn't. Most men aren't mind readers. I have 3 husbands, which makes it more complicated and simpler all at once. Monroe poured more coffee. They'll have jealousies, so will you. You'll need rules, boundaries. I suggest a schedule for bedroom time. Sounds calculated, but it's better than fighting over you. A schedule? The word sounded so cold, so transactional. Unless you want them arguing every night about whose turn it is, better to decide together, stick to it. Maybe 2 nights each per week. 7th night you rest. The practicality of it was somehow more shocking than the intimacy itself. Each man is different, Monroe continued. What works with one won't necessarily work with another. You'll have to learn them separately. Their rhythms, their preferences, what makes them... She paused delicately. What pleases them? How do I, Lily's voice cracked, how do I satisfy three different men? Same way you satisfy one: attention, affection, honesty. The physical part, that's just bodies. The emotional part, or that's what really matters. Monroe's face softened. They love you, girl. That means they'll be patient. They'll want to please you as much as you please them. What if I can't? What if I'm not enough? You're already enough. You saved them twice from ruin. You solved problems they couldn't. They don't need you to be some perfect fantasy woman. They need you to be you. Brave, honest, clumsy you. Lily laughed despite herself, despite the fear. One more thing, Monroe said seriously. You'll likely get pregnant. Could be by any of them. You won't know which, maybe never know. Can you live with that uncertainty? They'll all be the father equally. That's the right answer. But think hard in it, because that child will grow up knowing they've got three fathers. Town will know it too. Your children will bear that burden. Better three fathers who love them than one who doesn't. Monroe smiled. You'll do fine, girl. Now let's talk about your wedding night specifically. The conversation that followed was explicit, practical, and mortifying. But by the time Lily left Monroe's cabin, she felt less terrified and more prepared. Still scared, but prepared. The wedding was set for the following week. The brothers debated a large celebration versus something small and private. In the end, practicality won: a small ceremony at Silver Creek's church. Monroe as witness. Bridger Calhoun surprisingly invited by the brothers as a gesture of thanks for his help. The traveling preacher who made a circuit through the territory once a month. Lily wore a dress Monroe helped her make. Simple white muslin, nothing fancy. The blue silk from Boston was long gone, ruined in the blizzard. This was better. This was made with love in a frontier cabin by women who understood what mattered. The morning of the wedding, all three brothers disappeared into the barn for an hour. When they emerged, they were wearing new shirts. Not store-bought, Lily realized. Hand-sewn. They'd made them together, their wedding gift to themselves. You all look very handsome, she said, throat tight. You look beautiful, Nate replied. His eyes held something she'd never seen before. Tenderness. Open, unguarded tenderness. They rode to Silver Creek together, all four on horseback. The church was small, drafty smelling of old wood and candle wax. Most of the town had stayed away, unable to stomach the irregularity of the Blackwoods situation. But the few who came mattered. The preacher was uncomfortable, kept clearing his throat, adjusting his collar. But he'd agreed to perform the ceremony, and he'd see it through. Lily walked down the aisle alone. No father to give her away. But when she reached the front, Jamie and Ryder stood beside Nate. Not just witnesses, participants. The preacher opened his book. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony. The traditional words, the sacred vows. Lily promised to love, honor, and cherish. Nate promised to protect, provide, and remain faithful. But when it came time for rings, something unexpected happened. Nate slipped a gold band onto her finger. The legal wedding ring. Then Jamie stepped forward with a silver ring on a chain, from the mine carved with careful hands. For your heart, he said quietly, fastening it around her neck. Ryder added a third ring to the chain, wooden and rough carved, but beautiful. For your courage. 3 rings, 3 promises. The preacher looked uncertain whether to object. Monroe cleared her throat meaningfully. He continued, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Nate kissed her, tender and deep and full of promise. Then, shocking everyone, Jamie stepped forward and kissed her cheek. Ryder did the same. The small crowd murmured. Scandal confirmed, but Lily didn't care. This was her family. Unconventional, messy, beautiful. The reception was tiny. Drinks at the Silver Creek Saloon, food Monroe had prepared. Bridger made a toast that surprised everyone. I've trapped these mountains 40 years, seen every kind of living arrangement you can imagine. Some work, some don't. But I never seen four people fight harder to be together. He raised his glass. To the Blackwoods, all four of you. They drank. Lily felt tears on her face and didn't bother hiding them. As evening fell, they rode back to the cabin. Together, the cabin felt different when they arrived. The same log walls, same rough furniture, same mountain view, but charged with new meaning now. This was their wedding night. Jamie and Ryder had agreed to sleep in the barn, giving Nate and Lily privacy for the first night. They'd insisted despite Lily's protest. First night belongs to your legal husband, Jamie had said. We'll have our time. Now alone with Nate in the bedroom, Lily felt her courage falter. We don't have to do anything tonight, Nate said quietly. He stood by the door giving her space. Marriage doesn't require consummation immediately. I want to. Her voice shook. I'm just scared. I'm scared too. That admission from this strong, silent man steadied her somehow. What are you scared of? She asked. Hurting you, disappointing you, being compared to what comes after with them. Nate. She crossed to him, took his scarred hands. You could never disappoint me. And there's no comparison. You're all different. That's the point. He pulled her close, slowly, carefully, like she might break. His lips found hers gentle at first, then deeper as she responded. His hand shook as he unlaced her dress. Tell me if anything hurts, he murmured against her throat. Tell me if you want to stop. I trust you. The dress fell away. Then her undergarments, his clothes, layers of fabric removed until nothing remained between them. The first time seeing each other, fully vulnerable and exposed. You're beautiful, he said, voice rough. So are you. He guided her to the bed, took his time learning her body with gentle hands, finding what made her gasp, what made her arch into his touch. When the moment came, he was patient, careful, easing into her slowly. The pain was sharp but brief. Lily bit her lip to keep from crying out. Nate froze. I'm sorry. We can stop. No, keep going. Please. He moved carefully, watching her face adjusting based on her reactions. And gradually, surprisingly, the pain transformed into something else. Not quite pleasure yet, but the promise of it. The sense that this could become something wonderful. After they lay tangled together, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For being gentle, for being patient, for being you. His arm tightened around her. I love you, Lily Blackwood. The name, her new name. Legal and binding and real. I love you too. They slept, and in the morning when Jamie and Ryder returned from the barn, there was awkwardness but also acceptance. They'd crossed the threshold. There was no going back now. The second night belonged to Jamie by mutual agreement. He was different from Nate, playful even in intimacy, making her laugh when she was nervous. Teaching her that pleasure could include joy, that bodies could be a source of delight rather than just duty. You're overthinking, he said, kissing her shoulder. Stop analyzing and just feel. She tried, found herself relaxing into his touch, responding to his playfulness with her own tentative explorations. The third night, Ryder, intense and focused, his hands reverent into her skin like she was something precious. He made her feel seen in a way that was almost overwhelming. I've imagined this, he confessed. Since the blizzard. Is that terrible? No, I imagined it too. Each brother brought something different. Nate's steady strength, Jamie's bright warmth, Ryder's fierce devotion. Together they fulfilled needs she hadn't known she had, but it wasn't perfect. Couldn't be. The first real fight came a month into their marriage. Lily had spent extra time with Ryder teaching him to read better. He'd never had much schooling, was self-conscious about his rough literacy. She'd been helping him in the evenings, heads bent together over books. Innocent, educational. But Nate noticed. You're spending a lot of time with Ryder lately. His tone was carefully neutral. Too neutral. I'm teaching him to read better. That's all. Used to teach me things. Play cards with Jamie. Now it's all Ryder. Jealousy. raw and ugly and human. Nate, I'm not abandoning you. I'm helping him with something he needs. What about what I need? The argument escalated, voices rising, Jamie and Ryder hearing coming to investigate. Suddenly, all four were involved, frustration spilling out. You hover, Lily snapped at Nate. Like I'm fragile. I'm not fragile. You flirt too much, Ryder said to Jamie. Makes light of everything. You're too intense, Jamie shot back. Can't just relax and enjoy things. They fought for an hour, ugly truths and petty grievances, and the accumulated tensions of trying to make the impossible work. Finally exhausted, they sat around the kitchen table in silence. This is hard, Lily said quietly. Harder than I thought it would be. Yeah, Nate agreed. But hard doesn't mean impossible. She looked at each of them. We need rules, real ones. About time together, about communication, about handling jealousy when it comes up. They talked until dawn, established boundaries and schedules and promises to be honest when feelings got hurt. It didn't fix everything, but it helped. 2 months later, Pike returned. The debt collector rode up with official papers and a hard smile. Jamie's debt, he claimed, was still owed despite the silver mine paying off the principal. Interest had accrued, penalties for late payment, legal fees. $2,000, Pike announced. Pay now or I seize assets. But the silver mine had already produced 5,000. They had money now, real money. Nate handed over the payment without a word, watched Pike ride away with grim satisfaction. That's done, he said. No more debts, no more threats. They celebrated that night, all four of them together, something they rarely did. And Lily felt the last piece of fear release its grip. They were safe, free, together. Spring turned to summer. The mine produced steadily. They hired workers from Silver Creek, paid fair wages, shared profits with the town. The Blackwoods became respected, if still whispered about. Then Lily missed her monthly courses. At first, she thought it was stress, the unusual living arrangement, the physical demands, the constant adjustment. But when she missed a second month and her breast grew tender and she couldn't keep down breakfast, she knew. Monroe confirmed it with one look. You're carrying. I don't know whose, Lily said quietly. Does it matter? No, but they'll wonder. She told the brothers that evening. Watch their reactions. Nate's immediate fear and memory of Rebecca's death in childbirth written on his face. Jamie's pure joy immediately tempered by worry. Ryder's quiet awe, his hand on her still flat belly. It's ours, Ryder said. All of ours. Equally, Nate agreed, though his voice shook. The pregnancy was difficult. Lily's small frame, the harsh frontier conditions, Nate's growing terror as she grew larger and more vulnerable. By the 8th month, he barely let her leave the cabin. Nate, I'm fine. Women have babies every day. Rebecca said that too. No arguing with that fear. She let him hover, let all three of them fuss over her because they needed it as much as she did. The labor started on a January night, 9 months after the wedding. Another winter storm echoing the blizzard that had brought them together. Lily's water broke with a rush that soaked through her nightgown. Contractions followed immediately, hard and fast. Get Monroe, she gasped. Now. Ryder rode through the storm, came back with Monroe and news that the doctor couldn't make it through the snow. Just us then, Monroe said calmly. We can do this. The labor went on for hours. Pain beyond anything Lily had imagined. She screamed, gripped whichever brother's hand was closest, begged for it to stop. Nate looked like he was dying himself. Jamie's face was white. Ryder kept whispering prayers under his breath. Baby's in distress, Monroe said grimly. Cords wrapped. I need to turn it. She reached inside Lily's body. The pain was blinding. Push, girl, now. Push like your life depends on it. Lily pushed, felt something tear, felt blood hot between her legs, heard Monroe curse. Bleeding too much. Baby's coming, but we're losing you. Save the baby, Lily gasped. Save her, Nate roared. I don't care about Saving both. Monroe cut him off. Lily, push. One more time. Everything you have. Now. Lily bore down with strength she didn't know she possessed. Felt the baby slide free in a rush of blood and fluid. A cry, strong and outraged and alive. Boy, cry, Monroe announced, working frantically to stop Lily's bleeding. Healthy boy. Lily heard her son crying, wanted to hold him, wanted to see him, but darkness was pulling at her vision. Stay with us, Monroe commanded. Don't you dare leave these men now. She fought, the darkness fought, the exhaustion, fought the blood loss that wanted to drag her under. Fought for the child she'd just brought into the world, for the three men waiting in terror for the life they'd built against all odds. There, Monroe said finally. Bleeding stopped. You're going to make it. Lily surfaced from the edge of death, saw her baby cleaned and wrapped in Jamie's trembling arms, saw Nate collapsed against the wall, tears streaming down his weathered face, saw Ryder's hand pressed to his mouth, eyes wet and wondering. Let me hold him, she whispered. Jamie brought the baby to her. 8 pounds of perfect, squalling life, dark hair eyes that hadn't settled to a color yet, strong lungs that announced his displeasure at being born into a cold world. Hi, Benjamin, she murmured. I'm your mama. All 3 brothers gathered around. Nate touched the baby's head with shaking fingers. Jamie couldn't stop smiling through his tears. Ryder bent close, whispering promises of protection and love. Who's the father, someone might have asked if they'd been there. But the brothers spoke in one voice, we all are. 5 years later, the Blackwood cabin had grown. 3 new bedrooms added a larger kitchen, a proper dining room. The silver mine had made them wealthy by frontier standards, but they'd used that wealth carefully. Better tools hired help investments in Silver Creek's growth. Lily stood on the porch watching the chaos of family life unfold in the yard. Benjamin, 5 years old now, with Nate's gray eyes and Jamie's easy laugh, was teaching his 2-year-old twin sisters how to catch frogs. Rose had her father's determination, whoever her father was biologically. Evelyn had Ryder's intensity. None of them would ever know for certain which brother had fathered which child, and none of them cared. Nate emerged from the barn, caught Lily's eye, smiled. That smile still stopped her heart. 5 years of marriage, and he still made her feel like a girl who'd just fallen into a snowdrift and found salvation. Jamie was teaching Benjamin to whittle patient and playful. The gambling debt was long paid. The inheritance from his grandmother had helped build their expanded home. He'd found his purpose not in cars but in family. Ryder was checking trap lines, but he'd be back by sunset. Always back by sunset now. Alaska was a dream he'd abandoned without regret. His treasure was here. 3 husbands, 3 children, 1 family. The town still talked, of course. Would probably always talk. But the Blackwoods were respected now. Their ethical mine operation, their generosity to Silver Creek, their obvious love for each other had softened even the hardest judgments. That night, after the children were asleep, the 4 adults sat on the porch watching the stars emerge. Do you regret it? Nate asked quietly. This life, Lily looked at him, at Jamie, at Ryder, at the home they'd built, the children they'd raised, the love they'd forged from impossible circumstances. Not for a single moment. Even the hard parts, Jamie asked. The jealousy, the fighting, the complications. Especially those. They made us stronger. Ryder's hand found hers. I still can't believe you chose us. All of us. I couldn't choose. That was the whole point. She squeezed his fingers. You were complete together. You still are. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the mountain wind and the distant cry of an owl. Inside, their children slept safe and loved. Around them, the wilderness they'd tamed together. Lily thought about that frightened girl who'd climbed onto a stagecoach in Boston with $40 and desperate hope, who'd nearly died in a blizzard, who'd fallen into the arms of 3 brothers and somehow found home. She thought about the society that had called her ruin, the scandal that had driven her west, the conventions that said a woman must choose one man and build one life. All of it had led here. To this porch, these men, this family. They said a proper woman chooses one man, she said softly, builds one life, follows one path. What do you say, Nate asked. Lily smiled, reached for his hand with her free one, pulled Jamie close with the other. Three men surrounding her, loving her, choosing her every single day. I say love makes its own rules. Family writes its own story. And this wild, unconventional, messy, beautiful life. She looked at each of them. This is my truth. This is my home. You are my family. All of us, Ryder said quietly. All of us, she agreed. Always. The stars wheeled overhead. The mountain breathed around them, and the Blackwood family sat together in the gathering dark, complete and unconventional, and exactly where they belonged.